many times your organization will have multiple warehouses where you maintain stock, or even a single warehouse where you have sort of two separate entities within that warehouse that you want to treat separately. So regardless if you're just a single warehouse or a single location with a small inventory need, or a global organization with 50 warehouses across the world, this is a good system for you to consider. Let's take a look at the Material Location Manager. Now, by default, I can de-expand these and see my location. So in this particular sample company, which is the sample company that ships with your system, I've got 4 locations: San Diego, Seattle, Hong Kong, and London. And again, if I click on one of these locations, I can see the property. So this is my location. This happens to be a warehouse. It could also be a plant or a mobile warehouse like a truck or a van. If I do services and I have a van where I keep stock, I may want to stock the van with certain parts that we need to do certain services, or a truck. This could be a vessel or a boat, anything. It's any way that you want to, any place that you'd like to maintain stock. That could be a physical place. It could also be a conceptual place, and I can create the different types as I need to. Here's the information about that location, where it's physically located, and then some defaults, so that, what is the default release method. By default, when items are received, what is their default status. Below each location, I've got what the system refers to as storage units. So if I were to look at this from a map perspective, there would be 4 maybe aisles. So maybe my San Diego warehouse has 4 major aisles, and these would be each of the aisles. This first one is the receipt dock. The system refers to the subcomponents of a warehouse as storage units, and I can name them as I see appropriate. In this case, a receipt dock is more of a conceptual place. It's a warehouse zone, which essentially tells the system that this isn't really a place where stock is destined to go. It's just the first place that it lands. So when we offload it from the truck, there's just a taped off section of the warehouse floor where the items temporarily reside. Subsequently, then personnel will then bring them back into their bins where they'll eventually live, but maybe this is just the initial area where we receive items. So for each of these storage units, I can say what type of unit this is, and I can create these. Is it a shelf? Is it an aisle? Is it a section of the warehouse? I can give it a name and number. I can say by default that when items are checked into this particular unit, here is the status that they will reside. Of course, I could change that transaction level. What is the default bin type, so that the bins that I create below this, which we'll see in a moment, I can choose the defaults. And I can also set up the distance from the receipts area. So the receipt area is obviously, there is no distance from the receipt area, but for these other areas, this cage 2, I can see that this particular unit is 150 feet, or whatever my unit of measure would happen to be, from the receiving dock. These other units, this one is a little further away, so I can just stage that. And this helps in the warehouse optimization components as to how far something needs to go, so that I want to keep my faster moving items in bins that are closer to the receipt and release docks. Finally, below each of these storage units are what we refer to as storage bins. Storage bins are the ultimate place where items are maintained in stock. So in this case, under the San Diego warehouse, in the cage 2 storage unit, I've got 1 bin. Again, typically you'll have a larger number, but this is just a sample company. So I give that bin a name and a number. What type of bin is it? Is it baskets? Is it shelving? Is it rack space? It's just, you can create these different types. By default, when something's checked into that bin, what is the default status? Can items be received or released from this area? So again, if this is a bin that's set up to do some sort of repair, I can say that's not a receipt area, and then remove that flag. I can also set up the 3-dimensional properties of the bin, so I know the width, the length, and the height. I also know the same dimensional properties of my items. The system then knows how many of a particular item would fit into a particular bin. So if a bin is half full and I want to check in more, the system will say, wait a minute, there's not enough room in that particular bin based on these dimensional properties. Max units would allow me to say that how many items can this particular bin hold, and what is the default release method for this item. I could also create new location storage units and bins, and I could also look at the company. So this would be my entire company structure hierarchically, but I could also look at just the San Diego warehouse, just my Seattle warehouse, and sort of look at the same information. So this gives you a little insight. There's a lot more to this that we won't have time to go through, but this gives you a basic idea of how to set up locations and warehouses within the materials management engine.